Most people are saving wrong, and there's a Fidelity, actually two Fidelity reports that just confirmed this. And they dropped data showing that most people are unknowingly sabotaging their financial future. And even if you're saving or contributing to a 401k, I will tell you a big mistake that I personally made with my 401k. It doesn't mean that you're building wealth. This is a key distinction right here, because the wrong asset or a mix of safe choices can cost you thousands or worse, decades of lost growth. And your intentions might be good, but your execution could be quietly wrecking your future. All right, so the first one is playing it too safe, which equals falling behind. Now, many think safety equals smart, but playing it too safe is one of the riskiest moves that you can make. Now, personally, this is something that I can absolutely relate to, and I'm going to get into details here in a second, because Fidelity confirms too conservative equals missing growth and failing to beat inflation. Bonds, which are technically more conservative than stocks, bonds are at a slower rate. They have lower interest rates, but of course, with that comes a little bit more being more conservative in preserving your cash. But bonds can feel safe, but they kill momentum if you are young. A 20 to 30 something, for example, I am 35 right now. I am still being quote unquote risky with my investments because I still have more time to recover. But hey, if you are in your 20s or 30s, now retirement bond, if you put your money in retirement bond fund, it's like showing up to a marathon in flip-flops. Like, you're not really maximizing, you're not using the tools that you could have in order to maximize your growth. And even safe money decisions can be dangerous if you're not asking, what is this money for? So where is your money going? Don't just play it too safe right from the start, putting your money on bonds, or even not putting your money in the market in the right places. But it gets worse when you're not watching how your portfolio drifts over time. Number two mistake, according to Fidelity, is you're not rebalancing and it's costing you. So what does this mean exactly? Now, if you are investing in the stock market, or if you're investing in your retirement, maybe it is through your 401k or maybe just a regular brokerage account, your investments don't stay balanced on their own, and that can quietly cost you and me, of course. If we don't check, our portfolio can drift without changing anything. So for example, right, it took me a little bit to understand this concept, quite honestly. But hey, so let's say that you start with 70%. By the way, let me back up here a second. One of the most researched and backed suggestions of personal finance experts out there is that a combination of stocks and bonds makes an investment worthwhile. It's a solid investment strategy. So stocks allow you to get that compound interest and the high growth, the risky moves, quote unquote, and bonds give you a little bit more stability. So one thing that I've learned is that over time, what you want to do is you want to put more money on stocks when you are younger, and then a little bit of bonds. And then eventually, as you grow a little bit older, you reduce your risk. So you reduce the amount of money that you have in the stocks or invested in the stocks, and then you increase the amount of money that you have in bonds. So that way, your money is preserved as you grow older, and you're not taking risky moves when you are 60, 65, because at that time, let's be honest, we don't have much time left to recover. And we don't have decades, right? Like, we could have decades, but you know what I mean. But generally speaking, you want to be a little bit more conservative when you also have less energy to work, and you want to be a little smarter with your money when you're in your 60s, 70s, right? So why am I saying all of this? I wanted to give you a little background because this example is going to make sense. So let's say that you start with 70% stocks allocated, or 70% of money allocated to stocks, and then 30% of bonds, right? So let's say we start with that. But so let's say now that stocks are having a great years, the Nvidia is going crazy, Google is going crazy, Amazon, everything is growing. And at this point, you're going to notice that the 70%, now it's no longer 70%. Now it's maybe like 85 or 90, right? Because now they're growing so much that now the piece of the pie invested in a stock is much larger because it's growing. So it's good in a sense. You might be thinking that. I know that I would think that. But what happens is that when you have so much more money in the stocks, then that also increases your risk, right? So again, it's not a bad thing. We just got to know when to be risky with our money. So that may be a little bit more risk that you signed up for when you originally allocated your investments. So that means a bigger chance of loss during a downturn and or not enough stability when you need it. So again, it's all really going to depend on when exactly our lifetime is, whether we are in our 20s, 30s, 40s, or maybe 50s. So think of it like a car tires, right? So if you ignore them long enough, then you're asking for trouble, even if the ride feels smooth for now. Certainly, I've seen people who are riding with almost like no tires, like their tires flat, and it's crazy, right? So at that point, the ride is no longer smooth. Like something seriously going on. But hey, but even if you rebalance, your money might still be sitting in the wrong place. And this is when I want to go into high yield savings accounts and CDs, which is a subject that I talked about plenty of times here in the channel. But hey, CDs, certificates of deposit, and high yield savings accounts are not wealth builders. One of the questions or one of the comments that I've had when I was talking to about high yield savings accounts and CDs, people will look at them as investments. And one of the clarifications that I would make is, CDs and high yield savings accounts are not really investments. They may feel like it when the HISAs are, the interest rates are very high. They're in the 4 or 5. I've seen some banks offering even like 7% interest rates, absolutely outrageous. So they feel like an investment, but they are really not. So these are short-term accounts that are useful, but they're dangerous when they are overused. So if you're putting $70,000, $100,000 in a high-yield savings account, I think it's a little bit too stable, right? Especially if you're in your 20s, 30s. By the way, if you have that much money sitting in your 20s, like, hey, good for you, man. Good for a girl. All right, so Fidelity warrants, too much money in CDs or high yield savings accounts, even treasuries, which are essentially another type of security that is conservative. It preserves the value of your money. Then they equal limited long-term growth. So stocks average 13.3% annually since 1980. And originally I thought it was like, I thought the stocks average like 10%, right? So we're going to take Fidelity's word for it. I'm going to show you here the screenshot of what this actually means. But hey, stocks average 13.3% annually since 1980, and CDs barely beat inflation, right? So that's one of the things that you'll learn with CDs and high yield savings accounts. They typically are in par with inflation. They're usually, what I've noticed, that maybe like 1 or 2% 2% points above inflation. They try to keep up with it a little bit here and there. And what feels stable can quietly become stagnation when time is on your side. So if you're somebody that's got a lot of time left, 20, 30, 40 years ahead of you, then you obviously don't want to put everything in a high yield savings account, right? So what I've done here in the channel is I've talked about the pros and cons of high yield savings based versus low cost index funds. So I'm going to link that video in the description if you are interested in learning more about how these two options compare. So at the end of the day, guys, parking long-term money in short-term tools is like bringing a knife to a rocket launch. And even if you're investing, if you don't know where your money is going, you are still exposed. And this is when you are cutting right through my heart. This story right here is going to make me cry, quite honestly. So number 4 mistake, you don't know where your money is going in your 401k. This is, oh my God, I cannot emphasize this enough. So after you watch this video, if you're going to do anything, I want you to go into your 401k and analyze every single piece of your 401k contributions. Like, where is your money going? Is it going to a target date fund? Is it going to bonds? Is it going to real estate? Like, where is your money going? So saving isn't enough if you don't know where your money is going. Please remember that. So this is my personal mistake, right? Here's why I'm saying all of this. So when I was back in my first job in 2012, I signed up for retirement. Everybody around me was telling me, hey, you got to sign up for retirement, like make sure that you save. So as a government employee that I used to be, the 401k name is the TSP. Now the TSP offers different retirement allocations where you can put your money in bonds, which, as I mentioned previously, they are pretty conservative. They preserve the value of your money, or you could allocate your money into stocks or target date funds, so target date funds are securities where your risk is balanced over time. So you just put your money there. So let's say that you retire in 2060 and it goes from risky to less risk over time, right? So it does all the rebalancing that you would do on your own. It just redoes it on its own, which is honestly amazing. It's an amazing tool. Okay, well, as somebody who was new to personal finance, and it was the first time I was handling that much money, for me. Remember that I come from a low income background. I had no insight, and I was just learning personal finance, like everything, like from the ground up. And I was making a lot of mistakes along the way. And this is one of the ones when I was only 23 years old, when I put my retirement in bonds. Guys, I chose the G fund of the TSP allocations, and that meant that my money was being preserved. So this G fund was actually for 60-year-olds, so like 50 or people that were close to retirement. So as I went over time, I started checking my account, and I was like, why is my account not growing? I literally made like 0.25% last year. Like, where does that make any sense? So it took me a decade of growth. Like it took me 10 years only until a little earlier in 2025 when I was like, oh man, like where's my money going? And like, so that's when I decided to realize that I lost a decade of compound growth, and I immediately made the switch, and now it's good to go, right? So Fidelity highlights this as a common blind spot. So this lets me know that I'm not alone. And target date or stock funds are often better for young investors like yourself, most likely, if you're watching the video. So if you haven't checked your retirement allocations in 6 months or plus, now it's time. Go check it out, guys. But even if you optimize your allocations, you might still be leaking thousands of dollars every year. And that is taxes, which are quietly wrecking your return. So here's what happens. Taxes, very important, right? So you either pay them now or you can pay them later. One of the biggest wealth building tools that you can take advantage of when it comes to this is the Roth IRA. That's why personally, one of the things that I suggest is, hey, if you're going to open an account, if you have extra money aside from your 401k that you want to invest, the first move needs to be your Roth 401k before you even consider a brokerage account. Again, don't ask me how I know this. All right. So poor tax planning equals handing money back to the IRS for no reason. So Fidelity data shows that tax-efficient investors can save $4,000 per year on average, and most people don't know which investments belong in taxable versus tax-deferred accounts or tax loss harvesting. So this is actually, I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. So tax loss harvesting essentially means you collecting any losses from your investments when the year ends. So if you are able to allocate the losses where you lost money in your investments, then what you can do is you can claim that, and that decreases your taxable income. That's the way I understand it. I'm actually going to put a link in the description, or actually I'm going to put a screenshot here of what it actually means. So avoiding taxes legally is like investing with a cheat code. It multiplies compounding. So the biggest, the easiest takeaway here before we get too complicated with this is taking advantage of the Roth IRA. Please, guys, do you have the Roth IRA? If you max out your Roth IRA and you still got money, look into the backdoor Roth IRA. And then you also have another one, which is the mega backdoor IRA. Then also, if you own a business like myself, then you can also decrease your taxable income by having business expenses. And of course, this is all legal. There are fine. It's just a matter of like you learning the strategies. And if it's a little too complicated for you, then please hire an accountant that can help you, or a CPA that can help you through this process. Or hey, now you got AI, guys. Like you can just ask very simple questions to AI. It's going to guide you to the process right away. But even with all the right moves, there's one mistake that stops it all. And that is waiting for the perfect time and doing nothing, right? Waiting for perfect equals doing nothing. So trying to get it perfect is the number one reason most people never start. Now, Fidelity flags analysis paralysis as a major roadblock to wealth. So I want to say not just roadblock to wealth, not just in personal finance, but one of the things that I've learned from my experience, guys, is also when it comes to business, when it comes to career, when you got too many options, nowadays it's very easy to find thousands of options for anything we want to do, whether it is for careers, whether it's for business, whether it is like even in dating, right? So I think it's good to have options, but then also there's a law of diminishing returns. If you remember, like if you took like economics 101, they teach you that a couple of options is good, a little bit is good, but then you got too much, and then the returns, the benefits just start decreasing over time. And I think that's what happens when you got too many options in analysis of paralysis. So analysis of paralysis as a major roadblock to wealth. You don't need the perfect fund, just a good plan that you actually use. So Buffett himself says, but just if you want to keep it very simple, buy a low-cost S&P 500 fund and just keep adding dollar cost averaging. It's a very very common investment strategy, perhaps the most popular one. When you buy when the market is high, buy when the market is low, and you just keep buying over time, and eventually you'll end up on a net positive. Want to learn more about high yield savings accounts? Go watch this playlist over here. And if you want to compare the S&P 500 to high yield savings accounts and identify which one is for you, go check this one over here.